Hello everyone, I'm Nick from nextstepnick.com, and today I thought we'd talk a little bit about Mars Powers Industries Deluxe. So, in regard to this one, I wanted a puzzle game. I was interested in doing something more strategic than everything I'd played recently, and I've had such a great time with indie titles recently. I've had such a brilliant time. It's really reinvigorated my passion in regard to getting new games. I know especially with like AAA releases it can be a bit like you get one that's kind of wiped you out financially for a good at least a month or so before you can play anything else. But with these indie games you can pick up so many great titles for such a reasonable price. So Mars Powers Industries Deluxe, really brilliant, straightforward puzzle game. It's very intuitive, there's no menus, you're literally thrown in exactly at what you can see right now. There is no menu screen per se. You can access things like languages, you can access things like the graphical performance before you start the game, but apart from that you're thrown straight in, you're not given any explanation as to what these buildings do, and you basically need to work out that you're providing power for all of these buildings, and you're trying to not only grab these items on the map, but also solve these little puzzles to make sure that these buildings get electricity. Later on it's water as well. So, well, I assume it's water, it's purple, we're not sure, we're on Mars, it could be anything really, couldn't it? But either way, it's pretty straightforward. It's explained to you very intuitively through the gameplay. Now, this is a very casual title. If you're expecting punishment and risk and reward, you're not really going to get that here. It's a very cathartic gameplay loop of going through each level and trying to figure out the best way to solve these puzzles, trying to figure out how to beat things in order to accomplish your goal before you move on. There's no punishment for not doing well. You can, as you can see me doing here in the last couple of tries, you can revert back a couple of turns, try again, and it's basically a case of trial and error, and you kind of forget yourself. I mean, I was planning on doing a little bit of a play just to see how we get on here and do it as a bit of a let's play, but in reality I ended up playing about 50 levels, I think. Really good game, and it does suck you in. But on the other hand, because there's no risk, it goes, after you've played it for a long period of time, it changes from something that feels cathartic to something that feels arduous in a way. I think without a large-scale reward or any kind of movement when it comes to storytelling, it can feel a bit samey. Now, there is this background story, and the puzzles do get harder, but I feel like they take a very long time to get there. Now, that's not a criticism of the game at all, because it is really good in regard to engaging you and getting you involved, and you do want to carry on playing. I didn't leave this game through and kind of, I wasn't bored of it per se. It was just a case of, I kind of got to that stage where I wanted to tell you about it. I mean, the music as well really helps to add that cathartic feel. I mean, have a listen to this. It does make you feel very invested, and I think the actual placement of the buildings is very good in that regard as well. That little plop noise, it's odd how that gets into your head, but it is very much something you look forward to hearing in a subtle way, but at the same time that music doesn't really change. I feel like when they created this, it's a great game, but I feel like you really need to double down on what you're trying to do. I like when you're telling me different aspects of the story. I like when you're giving me interesting little things to look at. I like it when you're pushing me a little bit. I mean, here for example, you'll notice this strange building at the back. So we've had these monoliths introduced that have these strange powers to transport you into other worlds, and it's there where you really see that commitment to this interesting gameplay. You see these really surreal areas and different colours, and you see a lot more in regard to artistic license taken with the music and the design. But apart from that, it's very much what you can see here now is what you're going to get. It's a fun title. I mean, price-wise, you're looking at about £2. So you can't really say that you're not getting value for money, because I played this for a good couple of hours. It's one of those games where you can quite easily lose an hour, 2 hours in there at a time. It would be very good on mobile, actually, as well, if you want to commute. But it's just a case of, I wish they were more committed to working on these more supernatural, mystical elements. I mean, here we've just gone through a portal into this other world, and you'll see straight away the colour scheme is different. We've got these red crystals that we're not really sure what they do. We're working with explosives, and in regard to even the musical license here, how we've gone with the music, they've really doubled down, and I love this musical score when we're in this world. Check this out. music here is so good, and this is what I wanted to see more of, really. When you're in this part of the world, when you're in these weird areas, you're dealing with massive worms and explosives, and there's this interesting Dune-esque kind of Deus Ex feel to the world there, and you want to know more. I mean, even in this part of the game here, you sometimes see empty houses. There's this hint that something isn't quite right, this mechanical force at play that you're not quite sure about, but I feel like you can still accomplish that cathartic gameplay loop that you've got here whilst also feeding me something really interesting. I feel like you've got a great story here. You've got a really lovely fleshed out world where I'm genuinely interested in why we're here, what we're doing. I mean, here you'll see those boxes there that come up with the smiley faces are suddenly a little bit different, a little bit twisted, and in a minute you'll see as well that things aren't quite right, and that's what I want to explore. I think cathartic gameplay loops are fun for a certain degree of time, and they are very enjoyable. I really enjoyed the game, but at the same time I wanted to see behind the curtain. I wanted to find out why things were happening the way they were. I wanted to slowly see maybe this crumbling society, maybe this eldritch electronic force of the future kind of taking us away or destroying us or overcoming us. I wanted to see this additional world filled with this sci-fi music and these strange creatures. Every now and then you'll see like a space style creature or a little alien style thing or a monolith, or sometimes you'll even see things like the Easter Island heads, and all of a sudden you're very intrigued as to, well, tell me more, and I want that to be fed to me throughout the game rather than working my way right towards the end and slowly uncovering new things that I feel like could be done a little bit quicker. I feel like there's a few points whilst you're playing this that you think, you know, you'll be spending a very long time on the same type of tower before you're given something new. I mean, I was shown things when I went through the first portal. When you unlock your first portal and you go through, I encountered these red crystals. So I was very interested in seeing, okay, how do these line up with my current gameplay? How do I utilise them in regard to the towers I've got? What can they do? Do they stop me from doing certain things? And I wanted to explore that then, but instead it was very much, here they are for one puzzle, we'll come back to them in 7 or 8 puzzles time, and by that point it's less of a intriguing thing. That novelty has worn off, and I think what it comes down to is that you've made this fantastic game for relaxing, but you've also got this great storytelling vibe. You've got this really interesting story and this complex gameplay that can actually be really challenging as well. I'd love to see them combined a little bit more. I'd love to see more of this surrealness. I'd love to see more of this world that I'm not part of. I want to be taken on that journey, because at the moment you solve these puzzles for a very long time before you see that payoff. That being said though, I've really enjoyed it. It's been a really fun title, and I think the major thing about it was that it did challenge me. It takes a little while to get to the stage where you'll feel pushed or pressured. It takes a little while to get to that stage where you're using like these, for example, that can move the ground around, and then it gets really complicated. But until that point, it's kind of very straightforward, and then it suddenly ramps up. There's a very quick difficulty curve that suddenly just verts up, and you're suddenly on something a lot more difficult. But at the same time, again, I'd like you to have more confidence in that. I want to see that earlier on, and I'm happy to see less if it's more fleshed out. I mean, there are items in the game that you're not really told how to interact with, so you need to figure that out yourself. And at those points, I was my most interested. When I first was introduced to the monoliths, or here when I first saw these little aliens, how do they change what's going on? These alien creatures or these flowers, what are they? How do they interact with this world? What are they meant to be doing? And that's the stuff I'm interested in, and I'd love to see that brought closer in parallel with the gameplay. But other than that, I can't really recommend it enough if you're looking for something to kill time. If you're looking for a game that will keep you on your toes and keep you interested in solving puzzles and working through puzzles, whilst also providing just enough to hook you and keep your interest up, this is definitely one that I'd say to try out. It's on Steam at the moment for about $1.99. It's got some great gameplay, and like I say, I'd just love to see more of this strange and futuristic world in the future, and I'd love to see more storytelling. Anyway though, I'd just like to thank you all for tuning in today. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. if you do like my videos, please don't forget to also check out some of my previous work. You never know, you might like some of it. You probably won't, but you might do, who knows. And as well as that, head over to nextstepnick.com for all my latest articles, news, reviews and previews. Thank you again for listening. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this, and I hope you have a lovely day. Have a fantastic day, guys, and I'll see you later.